Hi everyone. GraphQL is quickly replacing REST as the standard for which data is queried, fetched, and transformed between front-end and back-end. And developers are looking to explore and reap its benefits. The benefits of GraphQL are numerous, with these two being on the top. Firstly, querying many resources and retrieving the exact data you want in one request. Secondly, improved performance, especially on devices with slow network connections via reduced payload size and less round trips to the server. So during our experimentation with GraphQL, we identified that GraphQL exists not to replace REST, but to solve problems that can't be solved by REST. So before I dive into more details about adoption and journey of GraphQL, I'll quickly talk about myself and the company. So I'm Aditi Singh, Senior Software Engineer, Creator, Maintainer of GraphQL-based API Gateway at Tokopedia. Tokopedia is an Indonesian technology company founded in 2009 with a mission to democratize commerce through technology. Okay, so let's walk through the journey of GraphQL at Tokopedia. So we adopted a GraphQL in late 2017, where we were already at scale high enough and heavily using REST APIs. So we want to integrate GraphQL without disrupting the services. So we wrote GraphQL queries for some services in Node.js using Apollo and identified that instead of replacing our already built REST APIs, we can create a universal GraphQL endpoint on top of our existing REST APIs. And in this way, GraphQL-based API Gateway born at Tokopedia. We written our API Gateway in Go using GraphQL Go library. So we chose Go as it is performant, type safe. A majority of services are written in Go, and we love Golang. So in 2018, we migrated all of the Node.js queries to our Go GraphQL API Gateway and parallelly started integrating new services as well. So we were only 2-3 engineers who were part of creating and managing the whole API Gateway. So we wanted to build a system in such a way that every engineer at Tokopedia can contribute to it. So we wanted to decentralize the development to enable end-to-end ownership, and we achieved it by introducing GraphQL modules. So we also built a common logging interface, which helped us in tackling the issues promptly and also help identify the type of error, whether it is gateway or service, what kind of error are we dealing with, and allowing us to approach towards the problem with all required sets of information. In 2019, we almost scaled 5 times, not only in terms of traffic, but also our engineering team was growing rapidly. Thus, integration of more and more services to GraphQL paced up. So we earlier had a very basic code generation tool. So we started analyzing the development pattern and built advanced code generation tool that we named as GQL tool. And it helped in reducing the code written by the developers to up to 90% and the development time to almost 80%. Also, as the number of services were growing and being an API gateway too, we built monitoring, which helped in keeping the availability of gateway high and also keeps in check the healthiness of all the upstream services. We introduced Envoy as a sidecar proxy for our gateway due to its rich observability. In 2020, we almost scaled 10 times. Our scale keeps on growing, and all the features and SOPs that we built from starting help us to handle this growing scale with ease. We have served traffic as high as 150K RPS on our events, and during load test, we have tested our systems up to 300 to 400K of RPS. We also added a lot of alerting to our monitoring to quickly act and respond to any incidents. We also deployed our gateway in multiple cloud, thus co-locating with services present across all the cloud providers. In 2021, we'll be working on adding more GraphQL features to production, that is federation and subscription, which I'll be talking about in detail in the talk at the end. So this is how GraphQL API Gateway fits in the whole picture of Tokopedia. So we have all sorts of clients varying from Android, iOS, mobile, web, desktop, mobile, web, all talking to our backend services via Go-based GraphQL API Gateway. Key features. So these are the key features that we decided to have while designing our API Gateway, and few of them we added on the way. So let's talk about each of the features in depth and see how these features help us in our journey in terms of scale, reliability, fault tolerance, and most importantly, a soothing customer and developer experience. GraphQL modules. So while building our API gateway, we wanted to decentralize the development for end-to-end ownership, as we wanted our teams to take full ownership of their service and give them a sense of responsibility and understanding of the gateway and know-how of how things are working from end to end. So GraphQL modules give this concept of implementing separate modules, so which allow you to separate your schema implementation into small, reusable, easy to test and easy to implement pieces, and thus asking each module to do exactly what they need to do. So we also have like different sort of modules varying from search module, cart type module, user module, etc., doing their specific task, and they are owned by the respective teams only. GraphQL modules also help in terms of observability a lot. So we can build a whole bunch of metrics on RPS, latency, errors, etc., thus helping to achieve high availability of the system. So so observability helps to understand the system better and help identify the issues and pain points. So it is one of our observability overview of all our upstream services and modules that are integrated in our GraphQL API gateway. This helps us to quickly react to the dropping success rate, increased latency, etc. So from API gateway perspective too, we are helping our upstream services with the active health checking and report the errors as soon as possible with all the available information so that respective team can quickly react to it. Authentication. So we have added authentication layer at our gateway only. So we have a common interface developed that developers can use to authenticate their respective query or type by adding that in their resolver. So we use common authentication auth service. So authenticating at gateway helps to get the information of user at gateway only and pass this user info further to the upstreams, thus reducing redundant calls to our auth service. So we have built a centralized cache for storing user info at our gateway in form of Redis. So this helps reduce the latency and load on our auth service. So this is how authorization process looks like. Client make request. If any query needs to be authenticated, we check for token and user info present in our in-memory cache, followed by the centralized cache. And finally, in case token or cache has been expired or invalidated, we fetch the info from our auth service, fills back the cache, and returns the response. Logging. Logging helps create a huge amount of information which are retained and can be used to rectify and resolve the incidents quickly. Since logs can be persisted, we can analyze the errors later. So we have created a common logging interface which is used throughout our gateway and by all the modules. And we keep all sort of information ranging from which query gets the error from which module does it belong, which endpoint it called, etc., which help us to analyze the issue pattern in detail. Monitoring. Like Apollo Server, Go GraphQL library does not provide you with inbuilt metrics. So we have built a large amount of metrics at our gateway layer. GraphQL modules also help us to achieve to build that metrics per module. And being an API gateway, it is important for us to maintain the reliability, availability, and performance of not only our gateway, but also the services integrated into it. So we have all sorts of metrics available, from overall RPS to query RPS, query latency, request latency, error rates, etc., with the purpose to analyze our system properly and learn about the traffic patterns, anomalies, error, etc. We have also Envoy integrated in our system as a sidecar proxy. Due to its rich observability that it provides, not only in terms of RPS or latency, but also to analyze the bandwidth and chunks of data being transferred. So monitoring those metrics around the clock is not advisable and also not feasible. So we have built alerting around our metrics, which help us to alert in case of any anomaly happening, varying from success rate dropping to latency increase beyond certain threshold, anomaly in traffic patterns, etc. It helps us to quickly react to the incident. Caching. Caching helps reduces the latency and bandwidth consumption, and we are leveraging caching for both our request and response. So while speaking about response cache first, so it has helped us in reducing the workload of our gateway by reducing the IO calls to upstream services, and help improve latency too. For response, we have in-memory caching in place, and the TTL depends on the feature, varying from few seconds to a few minutes. We have also implemented single flight. It is a feature specific to Golang. As the name suggests, in case of surge of traffic within a specific time range, it let you send only one request to the upstream, and the rest, all of the requests remains in flight. That single request gets response and share the same with all the requests, and thus decreasing load on your upstream services. This feature has helped us in decreasing load on our upstream services during events by many folds. It is a good feature to have when you are at high scale. Request caching. So as GraphQL let you batch so many queries in single request, request payload can become very large at times. So as to save the bandwidth and to improve latency, we came up with the concept of query hashing. So what does it do? Clients in the first request with the query containing the body, and we hash that query and save the hash and query in our cache, and send back the response with the hash. So when client make a second request for that same query, instead of sending the whole batch query in body, hash will be sent. So this change has helped us to reduce payload size to more than 70%, and latency has improved by almost 10 to 20%. A case study of caching. So how it helped us from failure during our year's biggest event. So we organize our biggest sale event of year during Ramadan with the largest number of users and widest range of products and the largest network of sellers. So it was our first such event in 2018. Before event, we were all prepared, and the amount of traffic we were anticipating, we prepared our systems accordingly, all scaled up and ready to serve the traffic. So on event day, we hit hard as we underestimated the traffic, and few of our services, which serves our homepage, starts failing. So managing those lot of services seems difficult. So we thought that instead of showing a personalized homepage to every user, why not show a common homepage? So we cached up all the combined response at the gateway only, thus saving users from having a bad user experience and decreasing load on our services, which were already failing due to high load. And thus, GraphQL caching saved our day and helped us to run our event smoothly. Tooling. So during our journey of GraphQL over a period of time, we not only saw growth in our traffic, but also our engineering team, services, and products also grown many folds. So it was important for us to analyze the development pattern and help our fellow engineers integrating their queries to save their development efforts. So we created an in-house tool which we named as GQL tool. So GQL tool helped in adding any new module, any new query in existing module, either by just producing us, giving a schema and input or curl of their API in one go. So GQL tool helped speed up the development by reducing time efforts of developers to 80% and amount of the code written by them up to 90%. So we have around 500 plus devs adding their services on queries to our GraphQL API gateway one day or another. So GQL tool helped them in reducing their development time, thus improving their productivity and help them ship their features and products fast. Okay, so these were the features that we are already using in production. Let's talk about more GraphQL features that we are currently doing POC on and planning to bring them in production soon. Okay, so first being the federation. GraphQL module let you decentralize the development and modules, but still all the code base stays on Gateway only and in same binary. So how GraphQL Federation helps? GraphQL Federation let you divide your graphs implementation across multiple composable services. And so with Federation, the upstream services can handle their own GraphQL server, and this will help improve the ownership. Also, when all the modules remain on Gateway in the same binary, memory or CPU capping, that is resource utilized capping, is not possible. So with the services federated, we can keep our resources per service. We'll try to federate few of our services this year, and hopefully in next year's conference, we'll able to tell you on how these features turn out for us. Another GraphQL feature that we are doing POC on is subscription. In case of query and mutation, your client sends request to the server and gets response. But there could be a case when server needs to notify the client of any of the changes happening at its end. For example, any app that involves notification. So subscription helps you achieve that. Subscription helps to get the real-time updates. So we are integrating a subscription for a notification system. This is subscription example on GraphQL. So a server responding with the changes and notification for the users. So to summarize this all I want to say is we are still exploring and trying to integrate all the cool features of GraphQL in one or another way, as GraphQL is this amazing tech to have.
Aditi, thank you so much for that content. It was incredibly compelling. And also thank you for joining us for a live Q&A. I realize that there's always a bit of pressure in that, so I do appreciate it immensely.
Thank you, Tyler.
There are a couple of questions in the chat that maybe we'll start there, and then I have some thoughts of my own after watching this content again. One of the questions was actually about the language choice, about Go, and sort of a little bit about maybe the history of the usage of Go at Tokopedia and how the team decided on migrating to Golang itself.
Definitely. So actually, we adopted GraphQL in 2017, but microservices at Tokopedia, they were we were writing them in Go since back in from 2015, 2016 around. So we were pretty aware about the benefits of Go. And so when in 2017, when we adapted GraphQL, so we used Apollo, so ready to use, but then we come up with the issues of type safety and scaling of Node.js, etc. And then we finally decided to build a GraphQL API gateway in Go due to its type safety, due to its performance, and yeah, and since we were aware about the performance of Go, as we were already using in our microservices, so yeah, we chose Go, and it is performing very well for us since then.
Yeah, I think that to me, that's always that's always the sort of the ideal adoption journey, right? Is there's a thing we already know, we're already sort of ripping and replacing another fundamental part of our architecture, redesigning the way in which we do things, being able to keep some measure of comfort with that language helps. Yeah. And it's really interesting. I've never really thought in terms of modules in the way that you described them quite the same way, like search alongside cart app, alongside user, alongside logistic. And I think it totally makes sense because of the separation of concern, right? Yeah. And especially for a team that has some relative size to it, you actually have the opportunity to let people focus on a particular business area or a particular sort of focused module. Were there any surprises along the way in implementing that sort of particular architectural design?
Not as such, because in starting we were actually using only single file for our schema, and everything was like not in the GraphQL module specific way. But then we decided, then why not let every particular team to handle their specific modules only, and don't let them to call a specific module kind of sort of write the code to call the specific module. Instead, let every team write their own modules, and in this way we have our schema defined for a particular module only, and each team will be responsible for it, and hence ownership will be defined, and like the GraphQL API gateway team don't have to look into into the code, like what is happening where. So each team is responsible for its for its journey, for its part, what is happening. So yeah, so in this way, GraphQL modules definitely helped us in terms of ownership, in terms of observability that we provided. So yeah.
Gotcha. No, that makes a lot of sense. I think it's seeing the commonality in that architectural pattern between sort of the experience of a microservice style infrastructure and thinking about the ownership that affords, and then bringing that forward into GraphQL it's compelling. It's exciting. And this is a talk I will definitely watch again. Aditi, thank you so much for sharing your experience with us.
Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, everyone.